Call the meeting to order at 5:30. Some announcements before we get started. Save the date for our spring annual town meeting. This is going to take place on Monday, April 27th at 6:30 p.m. And this is in the annex. Annual town election will be Monday, May 4th. Polls will be open from 7 to 8 p.m. There's a sample ballot online now, and we'll also show that a little bit later on. That's in the packet. We have an Arbor Day celebration put on by the Tree Committee on Saturday, April 25th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the GAR Memorial Library. I'll be holding Select Board Chair office hours this Saturday from 8 to 10. There's still a couple spots left. So book a time if you want to have a chat. And finally, call for volunteers. There's a complete list of current openings on the volunteer tab on the town webpage. Item A is public comment. Anybody here wishing to make a public comment about something not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to town manager updates.
Thank you very much. First update, we had sent out a townwide e-blast earlier this week, but I just wanted to put this front center in tonight's agenda with the recent conversion to the new website. All of the subscribers who have subscribed over the years to select board agendas or minutes or other board or committee minutes, those all converted over, those all translated over. But the actual name of the sender is still from @civiccms.plus, but it's a different sender since the website conversion. So I'm personally subscribed to a couple of news announcements. I can continue to receive them, and we've heard others have as well. So we don't think there's any need to take any action. However, as you may know from your personal email accounts nowadays, I have Gmail. It's compartmentalizing them in your inbox to your kind of priority, your promotions, your marketing, whatever. There's 4 categories. So we had seen a post on Facebook last week that someone wasn't getting the announcements. So my assumption is that's going to a different subfolder, but it's still being sent. So we sent out a news announcement on Monday out of the clerk's office just to let people know they should add the sender to their known contacts to make sure it goes to their primary inbox, and just to be aware of that. So there is no need for people to resubscribe, although they certainly can if they want to. But I just wanted to put that out there in case there is anyone who has seen anything different with the agenda postings or minutes in the last couple of weeks. We have been doing everything we always do, but with the website conversion, it might be compartmental. It might be routed in a different way.
Can I ask you a question on the notifications? If I wanted to go in and change something, I feel like I keep adding, but is there an ability to stop receiving notifications on like one that you've selected previously?
Yes.
There should be, and I could probably find the tutorial and make that available for
That would be great.
those, yeah.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
With the old system, I knew how to do that. With the new system, I haven't learned that, but Amanda and Rebecca have been more hands-on with the new site, and I'm certain there's a way to do it. So if others watching have that same question, I would advise until we're able to automate it, they could just contact the town clerk or my office. Next update, I'm very delighted and excited to report that we have hired and she has accepted Sonia Nathan as our new Council on Aging Director. And she's terrific. It was we had a lot of depth of in the field for applicants, a lot of strong applicants, and she really stood out. We had a 2-step interview process, including kind of a meet and greet with members of the Council on Aging and current personnel. And Sonia really stood out. Wendy, I want to thank you for participating in the second round of interviews. I think it was a very good process we went through. So Sonia comes to us from the town of Swampscott. She's worked there in the Council on Aging for several years. Prior to that, she had worked. She's the programs and projects director, programs and activities director in Swampscott. Prior to that, she had worked in the town administrator's office in Manchester by the Sea. So she's been in town offices for about 8 years, and prior to that had combined experiences over 25 years of, actually about 30 years of experience in healthcare, nursing homes, all kinds of, all through the North Shore. So she's got a great resume, great skill set, great personality. So we're very excited to welcome her. Her first day will be April 27th. And Christine Marshall's last day prior to retirement is the end of April. So they'll overlap for the week and make sure there's a smooth transition there. But Sonia's very excited to get started. We were all very impressed by her. Next item, I invite Amanda to just update on the ballot and
Can you show that on the?
yes, yeah. Let me just do a screen share.
All right, so, thank you all. Originally I had sent around a draft ballot that I was preparing. This is a revised version. This is the one that's been sent to the printers, has been checked by legal. We have the 2-year selectman spot, that does not have anybody running for it, as well as the housing authority. I believe the person that does currently hold the housing authority seat will be running as a write-in, because papers were not pulled. We have our ballot question on there, a couple important dates to keep in mind. And so we did order our vote by mail ballots. We have almost 600 voters that are going to be voting by mail. We are hoping to have those by early next week, and we have all the kits ready to go, so we'll stuff ballots and get those out immediately. The last day to register to vote in the town election, if you are not already registered to vote, is Friday, April 24th at 5 p.m. The last day to apply for a vote by mail ballot or an absentee ballot to be mailed to you is Wednesday, April 29th, that's at 5 p.m. People can do that with an application and they're scanning to us, they can mail to us, do it in person, or on the Secretary of State's website, there's actually a portal where you can request ballots. I haven't seen anyone do it here, but it is possible. And then we have the last day to apply for an absentee ballot in person. That is for people that do not request to vote by mail, or expecting to vote on election day, and then for some reason, a few days before, they have determined that there's an emergency that keeps them from that. They can actually come into the office, fill out an application, and vote right at the counter with us. So we have that option, and then we have our election Monday, May 4th, 7 to 8 p.m. We'll have our handicap accessible voting machine for people. We ordered some new election signage that will just spruce up the room a little bit. We've added that additional pull pad, so traffic should move quite smoothly. And we'll also have the table there, having people check for censuses that haven't been returned, so we can cut down on our second mailing, catch people for dog licenses and things like that. Any questions?
So the vote by mail, is that, as far as I know, you weren't here last year, but is that a normal or a typical number? It seems very high to me. What's the total?
It does seem high.
Number of
So
registered voters?
I checked the other day, we have a little under 4,000 registered voters,
Okay.
and we have about 575 people that are voting by mail, so that is high to me.
Yeah,
But we have higher turnout in West Newbury than
Yeah.
I've seen in other places.
questions, Chris? No, thank you.
The next item is the proposed FY27 operating budget, including all revisions as referred by Finance Committee. This is posted to the website under the select board packets as a supplemental packet for tonight's meeting. I wanted to make sure that with the changes that were referred by the FinCom at the meeting last week, that there was a single document that has everything. So that's what's up on the screen right now. And this isn't the same format that will appear in the FinCom booklet. Obviously, this is, it's got more columns. It's not formatted for 8.5 by 11. It's got colors and different things that are kind of, I think, helpful, but we don't do that for the booklet because it prints back black and white. This has more prior years expended. Typically, we do 2 years actual, year to date, and proposed. So this has got more detail, I think, than would be in the booklet. But the numbers will be all the same. So what I did for purposes of tonight's meeting is I simply shaded in green those cells that had changed at the in the last week and a half or two. And that was partly just for your clarity, so you could proof against your own records of all of that. But also that was kind of the system Jenny and I did. I marked everything in yellow that had changed. She marked it in green once she verified the numbers. So that was just kind of our own internal system. But so that's intended to, you know, obviously there were a lot of, as with every budget season, there were, you know, twists and turns. There always are every single meeting as you go through the process. So we wanted to make sure there was a single definitive document. Oh, well, what I should say, the definitive document is what is in the FinCom booklet. And unless you guys point out to me tonight, there's some number I've missed, as far as I know, it'll be exactly what you see. But in, you know, the booklet is what people are, you know, that's what's on the floor at town meeting. So the select board proposed column is the one that has the numbers that were referred by the to the finance committee on. And then those same numbers were voted on April 1st by the finance committee. They made, you know, the one, I think there was the one change on the library to bump that up 2,000. So, but the numbers on the cover page that say select board referred / FinCom endorsed, those are the numbers that will be in the booklet. So.
And on the detail pages where it says change from FY 26, that's from, that's not like a percent change from what the original budget was or anything like that. They're both being compared to, FY 26.
They're both being compared to FY 26.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless that's, that's how it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I did that column for the department head proposed, not for the one I proposed, but I did that for the select board referred, so. You know, we condensed a lot of that for the FinCom booklet, just because it ends up being, you know, if you end up having too many numbers, it actually is the opposite of transfer, because it ends up being too much. So we try to, for the FinCom booklet, we try to, you know, tighten it up, so it's just, you know, the 2 years actual, the year to date, and then the proposed, and then we had also, for purposes of this workbook, we had updated the year to date through the March 30th. The earlier budget from February 12th had year to date through like February 10th or 11th. So obviously the later in the fiscal year, the better data you get in terms of where you're trending year to date in the current fiscal year. So that's all I had on that, unless there's any questions. Let's see, next item. Oh, I have something I'm gonna hand around, Chris, if I could give you 2 copies. So as you know, we're hard at work with Pentucket on the statement of interest for the paid school. And we've been getting terrific support from Imelda Barnhurst, the P&F architect. She's the project manager who led the conditions assessment report. And as you know, we had signed a contract with her coming out of the fall town meeting, so she's been very helpful. Jonathan Seymour's been very helpful, and you know, I've been at work on this with help from Brian and Caitlin. So I think we're in great shape. It's due next Friday. The school committee will take this up on Tuesday night. So what I've just handed around to you guys is the current working draft that will continue to change, although I think it's coming along very nicely. There's now a lot of sections that still need input, but we're going to continue to be proofing it. And there's I think 2 or 3 sections that you know, Pentucket's still going to add some things in, and so the school committee will take that up Tuesday. The expectation is to vote to authorize submittal of it. Presumably, you know, subject to any last minute revisions the superintendent may make, because he's the only one with the actual authority to log into that portal and upload it. It's all through an online system. So yeah, we're on track that a week from tomorrow or sooner, there will be a statement of interest submitted to SBA or MSBA, that's Mass School Building Authority, and their processes we could expect to hear in December of this year, whether that is accepted into their program. And if it is, then there would be next steps at that point toward potential feasibility study.
Do you know what time the school committee is meeting? Is it 6:30?
So I've been texting with Jonathan because I have a meeting Tuesday at 5:30. So I told him that I'm not, if depending on their timing, I might be able to do both, but I said regardless, a board member would be happy to be there. I assumed, assumed one or the other of you would be free, so. He said the agenda's not out yet, so he doesn't know the timing, but he'll let me know. So as soon as I know, I think they normally start at 6, but I don't know when on the agenda this will fall, so I'll let you know as soon as I know. Next item, the library town hall crossing and the town center traffic calming. I think you're aware we have contracts in place with TEC for both of those. With the town center, that's actually an older contract that we had signed some time ago. They did the base survey, created a good base existing conditions map. They have not done any design work because we told, and they being TEC, our consultant, we told them not to do any design work because we don't want them to put pen to paper until we have a public meeting to just get people involved, let them know what we're looking at, why we're looking at, and really all we're looking at a location. Period. At this point, there's no concepts, there's no drawings, there's no anything. So we want to get the community involved with that, and and I'll just touch on the library town hall. We're a little further ahead on that one. We had a earmark from the state, and we signed a contract, and that included both survey and conceptual planning. So TEC had prepared a conceptual design under the terms of that earmark that had to be done by last June. So they did deliver that, and that's in a June select board packet. So it's on the website, but it's never been, we haven't had like a neighborhood meeting yet. So our plan at this point is to have a meeting. We're looking at either May 7th or 14th, but I wanted to hear from you guys tonight. The goal would be to have a meeting to invite in both neighborhoods. It would be a public meeting. We would broadcast through the web, but we would do actual mailings to everybody in those neighborhoods, and basically get people, providing their, suggestions, comments, concerns, and that way the designers would have that input and they could kind of go forward with the next stage of the design process. So we had Butch and Caitlin and I had a working meeting with TEC last week, and they're on track for that. They'll have all their, their materials ready for presentation, and they're excited to get started on that. Or restarted
So May 7th and 14th are Thursday nights, which night is not a select board meeting?
So on the calendar, that was kind of the question I had, because on the calendar I don't have any schedule. Yeah, I have you guys down for the 30th.
Yeah, that's the last one.
And that's the last one I have in my calendar. So I assumed you'd be the 14th, but that's part of why I wanted to just
Hey, I may not be here.
what?
I may not be here.
Well, you'd be here as a resident, as a concerned citizen. Of course you'd be
Look
here.
at the crowd.
So that means it looks like May 7th would be the best then.
That was my assumption. I just, since we hadn't
Okay,
populated the meeting schedule past that, I didn't
okay,
want to assume. So yeah, I think the 7th would be great, and then the 14th for the next board meeting.
Good.
And good, great. Let's see, the next item on the crash bar, striker bar for Rocks Village Bridge, Chris had offered a really neat suggestion at the meeting last week, so I reached out to the district engineer, and I had a call, it was actually earlier today with District 4, and I shared the idea, and they thought it was really interesting. He raised some concerns about, obviously it's a structural thing, and it's got, they gotta make sure things don't fall off and so forth, but he said he'd run it up the flagpole for sure. And that, whether it ends up being something on top or whether it ends up being something ornamental to one or the other side or whatever, like he took it in the spirit was offered. I pointed it to the website of the designer, and he was like, wow, that's incredible. I said, I know, it's and it's very regional for our immediate vicinity. Both communities, I think, have a real sense of pride of that very talented artist. So
So just to make mention of that, because people didn't watch last week, And I can't take credit for it, it's my wife's idea, so
Okay.
otherwise I won't be able to go home tonight. So, but it's, Dale Rogers, he's a metal artist in Haverhill who does he's got the large dog on the side of the highway. And the consideration is if he can embellish these structures so they're not just purely functional, but would be kind of whimsical and encompass, values of the communities and history of the communities within them, so.
It'll be different on your side, right?
It would be the same one, it could be different, I don't know, I'm not a designer, he is.
So they continue, DOT continues to be on track to have conceptual designs. Last time we were in touch about 6 or 8 weeks ago, they said kind of May or June, now they're saying June or July, so you know.
Yeah.
Once we have something, we'll let you know. And he did say they have a survey team that is gonna be on site on starting around April 20th, and that's gonna take about a week. So if people see survey crews out there, that's what that's about.
Is it appropriate to reach out directly to the people across the street? And let them know because they were.
Yeah, no, that'd be great, yeah. Good, yeah. Right. Let's see, oh, the pickleball, the Park and Rec Commission, construction update, so they had met, was that Monday night? It was like a month ago, wow. So they chose court colors, so I'm putting up on the screen right now for those who are at Zoom. These will be the actual colors of the new pickleball courts, and I for one think Park and Rec did a terrific job. I think it was beautiful color selection, and we're even looking at some design embellishments, which I won't get into because I don't want to I don't want to ruin the surprise, but I think once they have a grand opening schedule, I think it's going to be pretty exciting. They are working toward, Park and Rec is working toward something we're tentatively calling an Action Cove Day for probably late June. We want to make sure it's late enough that we know that courts will be open by then. They can do the top course paving after April 15th, but then it has to cure for several weeks before they can do the painting and striping and the posts and nets and fencing and all of that. So to allow for time for all of that, the vendor has estimated mid to late June is the target open date. And they're also moving ahead with getting the courts built into the MyRec system for reservations. That'll be allowed for local residents to reserve the courts in 30-minute blocks with a maximum of 3 blocks in a row, so 90 minutes. Non-residents would be able to play on the courts, but would not be able to reserve the courts. So a local resident could reserve that, and if they showed up and someone was there without reservations, they could, respectfully usher them off to play the pickleball. Let's see, CPC meeting, I wanted this on here because up until last night, the committee hadn't actually formally endorsed the articles that are on the town meeting warrant because they had a lack of quorum at their March meeting. So they did vote last night to endorse the proposal for a path connecting the courts, the pickleball courts, to the Action Cove snack shack. And I had to leave the meeting midway, but I assume they also endorsed the standard articles and the transfer to affordable housing.
Yeah, it was just the dollar, they had endorsed it previously, but the dollar amounts were changed by a couple thousand.
Okay.
Just a formality.
And procurement updates, we had if anyone saw a swarm of architects walking around the library earlier today and thought it was an invasive species, it wasn't. It was actually, they were actually invited to be there. It was pretty funny. There was like the whole lawn was covered with architects. We had a really good turnout. The library director and the board chair were there, myself, Brian, and Sam, and Caitlin Barker, and we got over 24 firms took out the RFQ. It was not a mandatory pre-bid, it was optional. And we had about a dozen designers in attendance. And it was a really very well organized. I thought, everybody involved did a great job. It was very substantive. We were very meticulous about making sure all the questions were documented in responses. So Caitlin will be putting together a addendum on that, and that'll be issued in the next week. And I think we can look forward to receiving some multiple presumably high quality proposals from designers. That deadline's in May. The next item I had put on here, updates from the Water Commission meeting on Tuesday. I was not at the meeting, but I did meet with Mark yesterday just to see if there was anything kind of that I needed to know or we needed to know coming out of that. And actually, we got Jack here, so if it's okay, I'll turn to him in a minute. But basically, he didn't tell me there was any real discussion of like water rate. That was on the agenda, so I didn't know. But I assume you're gonna kind of wait till the budget is resolved and then kind of turn to that with the rate study and all of
Yeah,
that.
we Rob and I are meeting next Tuesday. Talk about relooking at the revenue
Mhm.
based on our last billing. And from there, we're meeting in 2 weeks to have a more in-depth conversation about how the process will work.
Mhm.
We're hoping to do the advertisement for the hearing right after the town meeting. And so that's all I really have right now.
Okay.
Jack. Stormwater regs, the planning board talked that over Tuesday night preliminarily. Paul was there. Thank him for covering that item, and they're gonna have another discussion on the 21st where they'll have draft redlined amendments to the stormwater regs, and once they've chewed on it, they're gonna send their questions or comments to our consultant, Lori Kennedy, Horsley Witten, and presumably invite her back for a meeting. I assume in May, but there's good progress being made on that set of issues. The next item, I had reached out to conservation. We had gotten a notice of intent, as you know, earlier this year for the alum treatments. And I didn't know if there'd been one filed for the lower artichoke. There has not yet been a notice of intent filed, so we're keeping an eye on that. But there's not yet any formal filing on that. Solid waste and recycling contract. We had a working meeting earlier this week with Health, Caitlin Barker, myself, Chris Weil was there. And the procurement resulted in a very clear kind of top choice, which is G Mello. They came in with a very competitive bid, and as we know, a very high level of service. So we are working to put a contract in place based on model contract that KP had provided us. And that's one that they're very familiar with from other communities they work in. So we're not yet to where we're signing it, but we're closing in on that. And I think it was a very good meeting on Tuesday. I think yeah, everyone involved is from my observation, done a really good job with that. And we do have a couple of active insurance claims. The gym floor, we're still working with Pentucket and Brian on getting that work scheduled. And the police cruiser, we did have a police cruiser that unfortunately was totaled. So we have been working with the insurance adjuster on that. It was one of these things where by appearances, it didn't look that bad, but it ended up when the adjuster dug into it, it was you know, an officer was pulling out and kind of hit a fire hydrant, and it ended up doing some real damage. So we're working on those things.
So the gymnasium floor, that's the reserve fund transfer?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, although, you know, if insurance picks it up, that'll,
Right.
yeah, that's the goal. Let's see, the invasive species land stewards program, we had a great working meeting about a week ago with myself, Dan, Paul, Butch, Jen Geary, and Rebecca, because Rebecca and I kind of handle the administrative side of the personnel side of that, and then transfer the applicants up to the second floor. And Jen is going to be helping Dan with shortlisting and lining up interviews, and Dan's going to be putting together a team to do interviews, which I assume is going to include a member of the commission. And but you know, that's coming together. But the job ad is going to go out tomorrow. And then I met Butch and I met actually earlier today with Carol Decker. And because at a staff level, we all to a person is, you know, we really need and want help. And with the training and the onboarding, and I think part of why those, the 2 summers we did this, it was so successful, is there was such a great team of people with a lot of knowledge involved with getting the land stewards the skills they need, whether that's GIS or plant identification or the EdMap software. So I think we're in great shape for that. We had a really good meeting today, and so we wanted to, you know, my office wanted to make sure that Dan and Jen feel fully supported, because they're totally comfortable with running the program, but the whole posting jobs and, you know, screening the resumes and.
Yes.
And finally, town manager contract, I will be providing my notice, which I know you guys know, but it might be news to some on the Zoom. So I will be moving to a new job. I signed a contract last night with the Whittier School Committee to be the new school business manager, with a start date of August 1st by contract, but August 3rd is that Monday. So I will be giving formal notice in the relatively near term for departure date from West Newbury of mid to late July. So I know that's not shocking to you. You've known that might be happening for some time, but until a contract is signed, it's not signed. So it was not official until last night, and it is now official. And obviously you've been putting the groundwork in place to do a search process and so forth. So with this news, you know, I know that'll go into kind of high gear right about now. So.
Any other updates? No?
Ask a question, because you're talking invasive species.
Mm.
There was a lot of clearing going on at Cherry Hill the other day.
Yep.
At
Yeah, that,
contract work.
yeah, so that was all work where it had been treated by our vendor, Brian Holleran, Ecological Land Management. He'd done all the cutting and treating, so a lot of what has been pulled was dead and clearing the brush. So there's gonna be, Butch has been working with the fire department. There's gonna be a controlled burn this weekend. So there's gonna be, I think that right now there's a couple of big brush piles. So those will be burned, and that's area, all that's been cleared has all been invasives. And so that part of Cherry Hill is something that we talked with Carol about earlier today, which has a concept that I know he had briefed the board on, I think it was a couple of months ago, of perhaps setting aside a portion of that land as a butterfly garden. So he's gonna be coming forward again with that as a more formal suggestion. But the goal is first to clear the invasives, and then to hopefully repopulate the area with natives.
Ask another question, maybe it's not even appropriate, but I'll ask. Is there somebody working on beaver management over on Tewksbury?
Tewksbury town, Tewksbury.
No, Tewksbury Lane. right?
Oh,
Connects between Crane Neck and Ash. I did see a truck parked there, and I had a license plate, which was indicative that they would be doing something with beavers. And then I saw a gentleman walking across the field with a dead beaver, a very large dead beaver.
oh,
I don't know what's going on with it.
I'm not sure. I can,
So I'm just curious.
yeah,
That's
yes.
town plan.
Okay, not anything I'm aware of, but
And I can give you the plate.
sure.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can look into that.
Right across from Carol Becker's house.
Oh. So is it, in that meeting, is it clear that Butch is calling the shots?
Yes,
Great.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to action items. Item A is, we have 2 special event applications. The first is the Ride to End Alzheimer's on June 6th. And I see that Ethan is here. Hello, Ethan, how are you?
How's it going?
So did you like our new application?
I did. It was great. It was a lot different, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah. So I appreciate your diligence in completing it. I didn't have any questions. Did you, Chris?
Not did I was thrilled.
Yeah, everything is perfect, so I appreciate
Thank you.
Yeah.
They don't usually say that for my application, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Well, let's give credit to town staff, Amanda and Jim previously for working on the new application form too.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Fills in all the blanks for us, so we don't have these questions. I'll make a motion to approve the special events permit for the ride to end Alzheimer's for June 6th of 2026 as submitted.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, you're all set. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Sure.
Just one question on both. Again, the signatures out there, but I assume they are on the electronic
Yeah,
version.
just what's happening with that? I'll look into it, but they have all been signed.
I didn't think you put it in the packet if they weren't, so.
Yeah, this one is signed. But this is the old application, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes if there's a fillable form, I find it'll, and they're both in the packet, it'll like swap the content. So what we often do is, for something like that, like with committee interest forms, that'll happen, where it'll override the content from one to the other. So we'll either print it and scan it, so it's just a blank document, or print the PDF to try to basically flatten the document, so it's not got that. Yeah, cause that can, I remember this happened with CPA, in the old form of CPA, we used to have that where the content from one would be duplicated in the later ones, and if it was put into a packet.
Yeah. Okay, do you have any questions, Chris?
We did not, again, just a note, they just have the one police crossing at Coffin in Maine,
Yeah.
which I saw that last year, it was pretty clean.
Oh, I forgot to acknowledge that. I think we have somebody here for that, right, Emily?
Yes, I'm here for ALS-CDI and the Tri-State Trek.
Yep. So we just moved on to that, so I guess this is kind of interesting on the old application. Things that we would typically have questions on were captured by the checklist, so it just shows that it's working. Yeah. Do you have any questions on anything?
No,
Okay,
thank you.
no,
Make a motion.
oh, sorry, I did have. So there's no signature by the chief of police and fire chief, but that's not part of the new application.
No,
right?
because that
I do have
checklist
that.
goes around and
Okay, all right, that was my only question.
Make a motion to approve the ALS Tri-State Trek on June 27th to 26th special event application submitted.
All right, I'll second. So Emily, I would just ask that next year, use the new form, that would be great.
Yep.
It might not have been available when you completed the application, so,
Okay, sounds good.
all right, all in favor? Aye,
I don't think it was available in it.
yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item B is review, approval and signing of the annual and special town meeting warrants. So I know Casey, our town moderator, is here.
You should all have hard copies, Amanda's got some for you.
I brought some.
Okay, great.
Sent them to me. I think.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed again.
Nope. Nope,
No, so I have the revised. That's correct.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Chris, did you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I gotta find my paper first. The question I had,
and actually, just if we can, before you start, let me know if we're in any more special, because I'm gonna put them up on the screen, so if there are changes, we can,
Let's start with the annual.
okay.
my question, I think it's on the end, if I can find it, let's see it here. Was the cannabis. It was the zoning and then the prohibition. And I think the sequencing was off. I think it'd be better if. We had the prohibition of it first, in case the town desired to prohibit it first, then the zoning becomes less of an issue. You might get people wound up on the wrong thing first.
That's a great point, obviously, if the voters vote to prohibit, that wouldn't take effect until, unless the voters of the ballot did a week later. But at least if town meeting voted that, they would have a sense of at least how town meeting thought about that.
Mhm.
But there would still be it would still be recommended to take up the regulation bylaw, even if.
Well, I think you do both, I think
Yeah,
just make.
but yeah, the sequence, that makes a lot of sense.
Did you have anything else on the annual?
Yeah, but I can't find my notes, so you go right ahead, please.
Casey, did you have any comments or
I do
questions?
not.
Okay. So I did have on Article 20, this is the cell tower for on the water tank. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to discuss it. I do have some concerns that there's a lot of details that haven't been worked out yet, and I'm wondering if we should table this until the fall town meeting. I'm just wondering how you would feel about that.
Obviously, the concern is that we desperately need this revenue.
Yeah.
And so the sooner we get started, the more likely it'll affect next year's budget. But I'm also concerned that, there was a very high level of interest expressed. I'd be concerned that they may find an alternative if we don't solve the problem around the school.
Yeah, it seems to me if they know we're working on this and, you know, it's within 6 months.
Yeah.
I would think. Within thoughts, Chris?
Angus, can I pipe in?
Oh, no, just keep your hand raised, but thank you, Mark, for letting us know who you are, because you're just showing up as Zoom user. So once the board discusses it, Wendy will open for comment.
Thank you.
They did seem, like they really wanted to get going quick, and I sort of agree with Jack. I mean, I'm not sure they could do it any faster if they moved to an alternative site. But we do have a lot to sort of work out. Now,
Yeah,
realizing there's 3 parcels impacted and
Right.
cost share, legal review, all that stuff.
And there's been no butter, you know, engagement, which I'm concerned about. I mean, all of those things are manageable, but just that we're now right up to the wire on it, and I don't want to rush on this, but. Mark, if you had a comment, go ahead.
Hi, Wendy, how we doing? Guys, Angus and I have been working on it, and Angus and I both feel that we'll be ready for the town meeting to have everything that we can provide so that we can move on it now instead of putting it off. So that, you know, and as Jack said, if they're looking to get going on this, they could go to other locations, which they actually have located another one, and I don't want to lose the revenue of it. So prefer to stay on it if we can.
Yeah, there are quite a few details though, Mark, that have not been worked out, and, you know, there's 3 weeks until town meeting, 2 weeks. I think it's really important to engage the residents around that area, just so they're aware. If we
Can
kind
we-
of push,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If we keep it on the agenda, and if it's something that we haven't worked out, can we just pass on it at the meeting instead of taking it off? Is there any way we can keep it on until, I mean, I've talked to Angus and he feels strongly that we'll be ready for it. I'm just trying to stay ahead of it and don't want to lose the revenue towards, you know, towards this.
yeah, right, I understand that. It's just that Angus has quite a few things to do in the next 2 weeks. You know, I know he's in favor of this and moving forward, but I'm just really concerned about, you know, putting us in a situation where we're rushing and then it ends up going down at town meeting, which is not what we want. You know, we've seen things that we thought were very straightforward get voted down because we, you know, may not have been fully prepared. So I don't want to take that chance. But that's my opinion.
And if I could offer just a point of information,
Mhm.
so I kind of agree with both of what you said. I agree with what Mark said, that I think it could be ready, but I also agree with you that there's definitely details that haven't been figured out. So whether it goes forward or not is obviously your purview, but the kind of, just for those watching who might not have been following this issue, is closely the proposal, the lands that the water tank sits on is under the care and custody of the Water Commission. It's surrounded by the Craven property under the care and custody of the Select Board. But it also relies on the 50-foot access, the strip from Hilltop Circle to Craven. And so my office has been looking through the background of the ownership history of when did that become town land, subject to what transfer, subject to what conditions, and the conveyance does specifically allow for that strip. That it says the undersigned shall grant such easements as may be required so the public may pass and repass over said area so as to have access to said conservation land, and also easements as may be required for the installation of utilities under said area. That's the recorded. So that becomes a question: is the you know, is the necessity for passing and repassing and access to a cellular vendor within what's allowed. So it's a question that can be referred to council, they can give us an answer, but obviously we don't have that answer now, we're not gonna have it by Monday. Could we have it all buttoned up by the 27th? I think we probably could, at which point, you know, that could go forward or it could be passed over without action, but on the issue of public, there has not been any butter engagement, and I think doing that at this late stage would actually be counterproductive.
Me too.
Because it would be perceived as ultra last minute.
Yeah. Chris, what are your thoughts?
It's gone way too fast, and I understand that, and I understand by necessity why it has. I mean, we literally just gotten up to speed with the utility people, when we met out there a week and a half ago.
That was our most recent meeting, right? Yeah.
so, To have public engagement, we've been premature at that point, so we just have a lousy schedule relative to town meeting. And again, we know if you don't have public engagement, you're gonna fall on your face. With that said, my only other concern is it's got the momentum going right now. We've got Angus here.
Mhm.
He will most likely be gone before we get to the next stage, so there's a huge potential for it to fall apart.
Well, we don't have to stop now. I'm just saying we don't have to finish it by April 27th.
Yeah,
I mean, if he's still here until July, I think we should continue, and then that would let the vendors know that this is real, you know, we're moving ahead with this. I would even reach out to the vendors you spoke with and explain the plan and, I feel like it's doable.
I think there's a lot of work left to be done. I think every time we get the town meeting and all the details are ironed out, it doesn't end well, so.
Yeah.
As much as I'd like to see it, I think it's probably better to get it done right.
Yeah.
Move forward.
Jack, is that, I know it's not what you're looking for, but.
Yeah, I would rely on your feeling about how it's gonna proceed through town meeting and much more knowledgeable of that than I am.
Yeah, but I think to Chris's point, we should not just sit back and wait. I think we should
Yeah.
continue on it, but just, you know, make sure we do everything in time, including the, letter engagement.
I don't think you're right, you're letting the vendor know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, can you, live with that, even though it's not what you're asking for?
Yeah, I mean, I can live with it. I would prefer to do it now. I don't want to see it fall. I don't want to see it fall apart because we're not prepared, but you know, I don't want to lose the revenue and I would like to try to push it forward if we were prepared. So, you know, I'm not gonna jump up and down because we don't do it now. We can do it, you know, next meeting if we absolutely have to. I would prefer to do it now though. So, you know, it is what it is.
Would it be worth giving a report at town meeting to prep people that this is in process, will be coming forward in the fall? And explain why we're taking the time to get it right, and that way they'll be prepared for it, not surprised.
Yeah, I'll talk with Angus about that, you know, when he has some available time, but I mean, I think any input from, you know, to the town is, you know, is helpful so that we're not standing at town meeting arguing about it. At least people will be prepared and know why we're doing it. So,
I think they'll appreciate it, I think it'll actually pave the way for you to get it done effectively in the fall.
Yeah.
One other benefit I can think of is I think we've been explicit all along since this really just, and for people watching it, really first came up mid-December. I mean, it was really very, you know, so in terms of if this were voted, whether in the spring or in the fall, there's then the work to do to prepare the RFP and issue it. We haven't started on that. We have an RFP we got from town council, which is, you know, and some amount of it is boilerplate, but some amount of it's not. And we wouldn't intend to kind of really dig, it's not intended, we wouldn't have time, bandwidth to even begin to dig in on that. So I think if it was taken up in the fall, and if there seemed to be a clear policy direction toward doing it, the RFP could be complete, and that would allow, if it was voted in the fall, to kind of immediately issue it, whereas if it was voted even on April 27th with everything else going on, it might take, you know, months
Same
before.
schedule anyway.
Right, it might not be that different a schedule with
Yeah.
practice, so.
And I think if the vendor knows we're gonna do a
Yeah, that's
presentation at town meeting.
Yeah.
is serious about going forward. They're not gonna get it done faster in
Right.
another community, I don't expect, because
Yep.
there's certain things you gotta do.
Okay.
So is that, sounds like consensus to remove Article 20 from the ATM?
Yeah, do we need a vote? on that?
My suggestion would be before you vote to sign the warrant, that you encompass all changes
Okay.
instead of doing.
Okay, any other changes or questions on the annual, Chris?
Question.
Yeah.
It's really a question. Okay, so I read Article, 20. No, let me make sure I'm all right here with that. Okay, Article 19. Comply with Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission requirements to establish fair and equitable local cannabis licensing policies and practice. Okay, and that's one. And then further down, and I'm afraid I don't have it marked, we're, sort of banning any kind of marijuana activity in West Newbury. And so my question, which is truly a question, is there any conflict between these two articles?
So. Not conflict, there's a logical conflict, but there's not a legal conflict, yeah. So the voters will be presented the question at town meeting and on the ballot of whether to prohibit recreational cannabis uses. The reason a two-step process is needed and not just a town meeting vote is because West Newbury was a yes community in 2016. So for that reason, needs both town meeting and a ballot. So if the town could prohibit simply through town meeting article, that could be on the warrant and then the regulation article would be passed over. But because even if town meeting votes to prohibit, that doesn't take legal effect until the voters at the ballot vote a week later. In no scenario are we gonna know on April 27th whether it will be prohibited. So the regulation article is proposed as kind of a belt and suspenders, so that if the prohibition fails and it continues to be allowed, that there's at least regulation. Because right now it's allowed, but with no regulation.
I'm gonna assume that there's probably some interest in these articles.
Oh, yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And, so I wonder if people are aware of just exactly what you explained to me. That, that this is because of the way things happen,
Mhm.
and we have to. Have a double, we have to vote twice.
Yep.
Once a town meeting and once these things are always rather confusing to people.
Mhm.
And obviously I wasn't completely.
It's, when you read it on the page, it certainly seems in conflict on the one that
Yeah.
we're
Seems
prohibiting.
like a conflict to me, yeah.
It's not a legal conflict, but it's a logical conflict, yeah. So I did, just yesterday, we did post a news announcement to the web, and that included a detailed write-up, and also I recorded like a little 5-minute video of pretty much exactly what I just said. So that's on our YouTube channel. If people watch that, we thought that might be a more conversational way to explain it than a lot of words. So, and we'll continue to do that in the next 2 weeks, but, and we could,
The planning board hearing as well.
yeah, the planning board hearing on April 21st, great, so.
There's also lunch and learn.
Yeah, we've got the lunch and learn for town meeting, so we're gonna do everything we can to kind of make it as clear as possible, but. In the briefest possible term, it's allowed today, it's been allowed for years, and it's not regulated today. So a bylaw to regulate, we think is important. If the voters want to prohibit, that's great too. The board's not going to advocate that because it's on the ballot. They can't take a advocacy position on a ballot question, but that's a choice the voters will have. So if the voters prohibit it, regulation is moot, but we won't know that till the election. So if it was prohibited, then I think you could reasonably expect at the fall town meeting that the regulation bylaw would be repealed because it would be null and void.
So I'm not seeing the bylaw, regulation bylaw. Which number is that?
That is,
19.
19.
That's the cannabis equity.
yeah, that's the
That's
kind
something
of,
That
That's under something.
Article 22 is the one that
That bans it.
bans any kind of.
yeah.
Marijuana establishment.
It might have been overlooked. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The social equity, did you get the email I sent late this afternoon?
No.
I'm recommending to pull that entirely.
Oh, all right, so that's 19.
19, yeah.
Okay,
The reason being, town council, got us an opinion this afternoon. You can do the social equity through policy. It does not need to be a bylaw. And I had asked Sam about that a couple of months ago, because I knew Groveland did it by policy. He had understood it needed to be a bylaw, but we just heard from Nicole, because Dan's at like 3:45 today, and she said you can do a policy. So my recommendation, and I'll thin it out, because that's just it. What happened is, I know Casey's probably curious and others might be. So this whole issue of allowing it because we're a yes community, that goes back many years. But the Cannabis Control Commission all along, every so often they adopt a new regulation. And in 2022, they adopted a new regulation that said if you allow cannabis, you have to have a social equity policy. And that goes into kind of a lot of things. Because we don't have a bylaw, we need to do a social equity policy, but we're now advised you can do that through policy, not through a bylaw, so. My recommendation will be strike 19 altogether, and yes, we will need to add in that looks like it was oversight. All this cannabis, our thinking was muddled over all these cannabis issues.
all right, what about Article 21? I mean, there are some recent, questions by town council. I'm wondering if this is another one that we're just not gonna be ready for.
I would recommend to strike it, and I met with Sam today, he's fine with
Okay.
that.
Are you all right with that, Chris?
Yeah, my notes on that were like, what problem are we trying to solve here?
Hmm.
I had a lot of questions on it that never get, I mean.
Yeah.
You only have 2 parking spaces at your house? I mean, that's what, it's just a weird bylaw, I think,
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm happy to see that one pulled for now.
All right,
They actually got the name right this time, right?
Yeah.
And
all right, so that's removing 3 articles and adding 1.
Yep.
That too,
oh, we added?
The cannabis zoning,
the zoning
the
bylaw,
regulation.
and that will go after the prohibition.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, are you ready to vote now? No other questions, Casey? Okay.
We'll make a motion to remove articles 19, 20, and 21. And to add, even though it's really not adding, it's just confirming that we have it in there, the cannabis zoning bylaws.
All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's move on to the special town meeting. Questions here? Chris?
No. No.
Okay, so we add back the 50,000 on unbudgeted, right? Personnel costs.
We,
Yeah,
for-
we have to sunset, I mean,
What's that? Yes, on Article 19, I'm looking at.
yeah. that's
Yeah.
right.
Were there any other changes resulting from the last FinCom meeting? Not in articles, right?
note the Article 5 carries the 25,000, not the 35 for the Campbell Park walkway, as it should, so
Okay.
that's correct. Um,
Right, and all these water numbers are good, Jack? You guys are still working on the budget, but that's not gonna change anything.
Revenue side, and to the expense side, I think.
Okay, great.
one thing, just, Chris, you may have noticed, the police rifles that had been on the draft I sent out, but that we have since confirmed that was actually removed from the warrant back on March 19th, so we struck that from here.
Is Article 5?
Yes, yeah, that 6,000 for rifles have been, it is a small enough number, it can kind of be absorbed within the operating budget. For like a rifle or 2 at a time, so,
You said Article 5?
well, it was on the draft I sent out, yeah. earlier.
Between 7 and 8, no.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember that got struck, so I never even brought my attention.
All right, and then on the snow and ice, just wait till town meeting to actually put a number in there.
We almost never put a number in the warrant. When we do that in motion, but I think it's fair to let people know it's a $300,000 number.
Little one.
A little more, yeah, I think it was 361.
Yeah, I would take the extra, that's nice pocket change, so yeah, it's a big number.
It's a big number, it's, yeah, I shouldn't laugh,
Yeah.
it's a big
I
number,
mean, and that's the deficit, that's in addition to the 200,000 that was budgeted.
yeah.
Tough winter.
There was a press announcement today that the governor filed for emergency funding from the federal government related to those stones.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Already filed, but
yeah, we knew that was coming, we participated, Butch and Mark was part of that, a number of us participated back a few weeks ago in a statewide conference call with MEMA. And we provided all of our numbers to MEMA because they were aggregating all the numbers statewide as part of their petition to the feds, so. It's 100% the president's discretion whether to award or to not award, to declare a disaster. If the president declares a disaster, then the state becomes eligible for post-disaster funding. But whether that does or doesn't is entirely a discretionary decision.
Okay, any other questions on the special? No changes, right?
Well, I have my usual question here,
Which is what?
it's always kind of, here, Article 3, which is the unpaid bills.
Mhm.
And there's this discrepancy of what the vote should be if the unpaid bills were actually budgeted, or if they're just now coming in. And if they were actually budgeted, it's just a simple majority. And if they're just now coming in, it's a 9/10. And so the answer I've gotten in the last couple of years is just ask for 9/10, and then you don't have to worry about it, which is true. But it is a question that's out there, someone could ask.
well, it is just coming in, so you would have to.
That's what it could have been
So it's-
budgeted though.
Well, so it was part of the Church and Prospect
Right,
project. So that was appropriated, the debt was approved, it wasn't the operating budget, but was part of the project budget, it was police detail that the town of Merrimack didn't send their invoice until about 6 weeks ago,
Yeah.
for work from June of 2024, not June of 2025, June of
Three
2024.
statute of limitations.
There are, because it gets ridiculous.
We probably don't have to pay it, that's not being a good neighbor either.
Yeah.
yeah.
I would look for the 9/10, so just,
All right.
I mean,
Well, you know,
It's the answer.
Usually it's just unanimous, so I mean,
yeah, but
people don't
you gotta pay
really
the bill.
argue with this. But but there is a difference.
Okay, any other question, Casey?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I always come up with one after I leave, which is.
You can come back, we'll be here.
I did want to just confirm with you on the CPA funding for the path at Canada Park. I had that penciled in right along out of the open space and rec reserve
Mhm.
as opposed to the undesignated reserve, so,
I'm assuming there's enough money in there?
oh yeah, well, yeah, plenty. I mean, more than enough, I should say.
Okay, in the open space?
Yeah, there's 6 figures in there.
Okay. Okay, a motion for us?
Okay,
Motion approved both the special and the annual town meeting warrants with the modifications as discussed.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
And I did go ahead and put a signature date of Monday, just in anticipation that there might have been some things coming out of here.
Okay,
The changes he made were very modest, so I think we could get that ready for your signature tomorrow.
okay,
And once we get it, fully executed, we'll post it, so.
okay. Have you shared your availability for the joint meeting, Casey?
I have not asked Casey yet, because I'm still waiting on Tim. He hasn't given me or he gave me 2 dates for next week, but they don't work. So I pressed him for the following week. And once I have dates from him, I was gonna contact you and
Okay.
FinCom, because if he, if he has his
I
schedule.
would press him to do next Thursday.
Okay,
I mean, he said Tuesday and Wednesday are best, but maybe we can still do Thursday.
okay.
It
Alright.
shouldn't be a long meeting, right?
No.
Especially if you've already asked the
well, yeah, I
question
mean,
on more.
this meeting actually is more important to me
Right,
than that one, because at that point, everything's already done. And so it would be a rather difficult process to go back and change anything.
Yeah.
But this one is an opportunity to discuss some of the potential problems.
Mhm. So are you available next Thursday, if that works out for Tim?
I think so.
Okay.
I still have a paper calendar,
Okay.
which is kind of, too bad, but, I'm pretty sure I'm available next
Okay.
Thursday.
All right, well, I guess we'll be in touch then.
And it would be like 5:30 or something.
Uh, Probably six.
Probably six, FinCom, I think likes the 6 o'clock start.
Okay.
That's great, thank you. All right, next item is appointment of the Organizational Assessment Committee.
I like that.
Okay, so that's in the packet, right?
Yeah,
Where am I? What page is that on?
32.
Okay. So my only question, well, did you have any questions first or revisions? Chris?
No.
My only question is about the last sentence about whether this is gonna morph into the town manager search committee.
I hope so.
Yeah, so I guess my question is just, should we make that decision now instead of, waiting 3 weeks or whatever? I mean, the first step of the organizational assessment is the public forum and survey, which is part of the town manager search process as well. So I think in some ways it makes sense to just appoint this committee and clearly, identify both responsibilities.
Oh, 100%, maybe that, if we, almost if you're going on parallel paths too, you can do the paperwork preparation for the town manager search now that we know it's official, I think.
Yeah. So if I just expand the last sentence and, I mean, there's no detail in the town manager act to say what the committee does, so
But I like it,
yeah,
just that we appoint it and it'll give us 3 candidates.
okay. So I would strike the details for that work would be described as a charge and just,
Well, the charge is to present the select board with 3.
this work with the consultant on some separate scope.
Chris, does it specify 3?
At least 3, I think.
At least 3, okay, I just, people
That's
from,
from memory, so
yeah,
if somebody
I
wants to
just,
skew me, I'll be
people
home
from
later.
Ipswich may advise that you have more than 3, just in case some.
No, well, we would have
I
five.
can't imagine somebody would do that.
Oh, you
maybe
mean the candidate.
For the candidate.
The committee.
No, not for, you might want to.
I even changed the word from should the town manager, so no, I should, when a town manager is required,
Okay, so are you comfortable with moving ahead with this? And not seeing the changes in my language, or do you want, how can we do this?
What you change is the language.
I'm just gonna modify that last paragraph to reflect that they're gonna be working with the committee, with the consultant on the separate contract to satisfy the requirements of the town manager.
I'm very fine with that.
All right.
Can we also specify the people too? 'Cause they've been, like,
That wouldn't be in here, but we'll be voting by case, but we should vote on that as well. So I wanted to approve the charge, that's always, vote on the people. So we're good with the
Make the
charge.
motion to approve the charge of the organizational assessment / town manager search committee with modification in the last paragraph to be made by Ms. Reed.
I'll second that. For discussion, any interest in changing the name of the committee to like the transition committee or something, or?
Yes, but that'd be fine, I think.
All right,
It's obviously, I was dancing around trying to figure it out, the guys.
okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Angus, you had some points about, you want to offer?
Sure, yeah, I think the chart, not to do with the charge, but to do with the search, I think the consult scope, I thought was great, but I did just wanna throw in my 2 cents that, so I guess my advice would be to post the job pretty promptly on a Mass Municipal Association. While the community profile that will be written up as part of the scope, is very nice and helpful. I do not think it will affect who applies or not applies. It may affect their understanding coming in, which is helpful. But I think that in my feelings, the market is what it is. Maybe you'll get 1 or more candidates who would be moving to this region, but in all likelihood, most candidates are gonna be within commuting distance of here. So I think there's people either looking or not looking, and they're gonna apply or not apply, whether you put the profile. So I think in the interest of timeliness, you might be better off posting the job soon, even if you intend to have that profile available in 2 weeks or whatever timeline we're gonna say to commit to. And I also I told Wendy, I felt like your stronger candidates, in my opinion, will be the stronger candidates regardless of what your particular issues are. So I don't think they would, I don't think they need to wait to see the profile to decide if they're gonna apply, so. And then just very importantly, I think whomever you hire, assuming they're coming from a comparable role, would presumably need to give 60 to 90 days notice. If they're currently the assistant in a different community, they might not have to give that notice, but if they're currently the administrator or the manager, they almost certainly would have to give that kind of notice. So I think the sooner you can kind of get that posting out there, the better. And MMA, when we send them a job ad, it's posted that day. So it's as quick as can be, and we would send it to MMA. There's a comparable organization, New Hampshire and Maine. So you'd be covering kind
I
of
was
that.
gonna
whole-
suggest that, because we met with Ipswich people, they mentioned they did, I think, New Hampshire, and they did get some inquiries from people there too,
Yeah,
and we're much closer, so.
yeah. So I think, it wouldn't be instead of what you're doing, it would just more be to kind of kickstart that. And, I think, I would recommend that the goal ought to be to have as short a period of time as possible for any kind of interim. Ideally, there could be someone who could actually start by the end of July, but even if that doesn't happen, if it ends up being a gap of a week or two, that's fine. If it ends up being a gap of a month or two, then in my opinion, you're really gonna need an interim, and I think that becomes potentially disruptive, so. And then in terms of process, I would just observe, having gone through the entire process in Ipswich, right through the finalist interview. I thought that was an excellent process. I'm happy to sketch out, or I can give you a detail, not right now, but what it was. I thought it was a really good process, very inclusive, I think, for the residents, and as a candidate, it was a very thorough, very healthy process. They did do that all in-house, which is neither here nor there. But in terms of, again, the written profile, they didn't do that there, which I told Wendy, kind of put the burden on myself and the other applicants to do our own research about the town, which I don't think is a bad thing. For your next town manager to,
Mhm.
let them roll up their sleeves and kind of do, so Rod, I don't think you should feel compelled to spoon feed the applicants of what
No,
your.
I don't
issues
either.
are.
I mean,
Yeah,
to me, this is all about getting the residents on board with.
Yeah.
First of all, the town manager model and what that really means, and then what do they want for a town manager? To me, that's the more important piece. But, and maybe, so I'm planning on a kickoff meeting next Wednesday, so I mean, we could certainly discuss this with the consultant and get their input as well as the rest of the committee. Those are good. Yeah, you had said Chris, when you talked to the Ipswich Select Board, that they were pretty engaged. I'm just worried if there's a 2-member select board, we're not gonna be able to provide the same level of engagement in the town manager search process that they did,
But your committee would be able to.
I know, but I'm just saying if.
I
they did it all
don't think the
internally.
select board should do it solely by the select board, that's your point, no, I love the idea of the committee, working in conjunction with the consultants.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the breadth of the consultants' experience and the connections they have will help us very much. We did our search committee on school committee back many years ago, and we hired Dr. Malkin, we hired Mass Association of School Committees, and they had a consultant there that ran the process for us, and it worked exceptionally well. I mean, I think as a select board, even if we had 3 people, would be in over our head on it without the consultant.
Yeah,
I think
well,
you're
Ipswich
gonna-
has 5 as well.
Yeah, but I think you're gonna get a broader applicant pool because they already know who the players are, who's looking, who's potentially looking, but hasn't even thrown their hat in any ring yet. They can know if there's any people out there you might want to avoid for that matter. So I think they provide us a significant level of protection and education at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and I think with the committee we have formatted, it will be very efficient and effective at the same time.
Okay, but we could certainly discuss the points Angus raised at the kickoff meeting and.
Yeah.
Get some input. All right, so do you want to make a motion to appoint the members that we,
Yeah, make a motion to formally establish the committee with the 5 following members. Wendy Reed is the select board, Ann Bardine is a committee chair, she's the chair of the planning board. Jenny Walsh is a town employee, and she's also a town resident. Gary Roberts, who was a past selection committee member and also on the FinCom, and Tom Ellis, who would be the resident representative.
Yeah, second.
Comment, last meeting I mentioned those 5 people, but we needed to make sure they were all on board with it before we threw them under the bus. So I confirmed with all of them that they would be,
Very good. We have some of them online.
yeah, and I appreciate all of them with the commitment that they've offered to help us on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right, item D, referral of proposed zoning bylaw amendment to prohibit marijuana land uses to the planning board.
So with all of the focus on the ballot language, we have managed to overlook the necessary process, of course, of a zoning amendment, public hearing, under chapter 48. So I picked up on that over the weekend, and there was just enough time to legally meet the requirement, provided the select board tonight refers this matter to the planning board. I did take the liberty of going ahead and authorizing the placement of a legal ad for a hearing on April 21st. Because we were not able to, we didn't send that out till Monday. The ship had sailed for the Newbury Report News, so that was posted in the Boston Herald. And that's gonna run again next Tuesday the 14th. That's the 2 consecutive weeks, 14 days prior to the hearing. I was able to connect with planning board chair Ann Bardine on Monday, and she was amenable to the approach we were taking. So, but procedurally, I would look to the board for a vote to refer the proposed prohibition bylaw amendment to the planning board for public hearing, at which point they will open their hearing on April 21st.
I was at their hearing the other night online. They're fully aware of it, they're ready to go, so.
Good,
I
great,
already had the heads up on it.
good, good.
I'll make a motion that we refer the zoning amendment for the prohibition of marijuana to the planning board for public hearing.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I want to thank Jen Geary for, I
Scrambling, right?
came into that Monday morning, I said, okay, Jen, we gotta get a legal ad, I said, contact the Globe and the Herald and make this happen, so.
Great. All right, moving on to item E, we have some proposed warrant articles. So we've already voted on this, so what? Is this,
Which are always,
well, I mean, we've already, did you want to have a discussion on these, or is there actually a vote needed? We had already decided to do the comprehensive on the dog law.
oh, we had,
Yeah,
oh, okay, I didn't realize, I guess I didn't know that was a.
yeah, I thought you had it on here to, for us to vote an endorsement. I don't know if we hadn't done that yet.
I'm not sure, but I do know that when we had it on the agenda a few weeks ago, it was on as like a listening session, and we
Yeah.
had said at that point it would be on for April 9th.
Okay,
So I don't have my notes, but I would say just to err on the side of caution, if you can vote that.
yeah, I think the feedback at that meeting from residents was that made more sense to just,
It was, that was the feedback,
Yeah.
yeah.
Motion is to clarify it,
yeah,
If you
and
could,
also
yeah.
our whether, to endorse it. I don't think we voted on this
Okay.
one, on any of the non-FinCom ones.
okay. Maybe I had it in my head, so I knew we were gonna do it. I make a motion that the select board endorse the comprehensive revisions to the Ollie's Law bylaw amendment on the town warrant article.
On the dog bylaw,
Yes, that's Ollie's Law, yeah.
always law is a different law.
Oh, okay, on the dog bylaw.
Okay, all right, second. It's a friendly amendment.
That's,
Okay,
you even smiled, very
All right.
friendly.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye. So on the proposed marijuana zoning district, these are just reviewing changes that the planning board had made that,
Yes, I put that in. There were the 2 minor but important language changes that came out of the planning board's hearing, so I put those in red lines. I do want to note on this one that we may get additional town council revisions of this one.
okay,
So I hoped I would have that for tonight, and so if you're comfortable, I guess you have 2 options. You could endorse what's in front of you in terms of what goes into the booklet, or I mean, if there's town council changes.
I'd rather wait, if they're gonna change, why vote it now and then have another,
Yeah, I guess the issue is gonna be what do I put in the booklet, because
will you have town council's revisions by the time you're ready to put something in a booklet?
I thought I would have them for tonight, and I got them on the social equity, but I didn't get them on the.
I'm pretty confident we're gonna vote whatever town council says. I'm
Right, right,
not knowledgeable enough to vote otherwise.
right.
So what is the question for town council?
Just to review the bylaw. This is another one that.
Oh, okay,
you
so
know,
it's not the particular changes that were made.
No, it's the whole bylaw.
All right, so then what are our options then?
I think the option would be to put in, what came out of the planning board hearing.
Mhm.
And then if there are any changes, that town council recommends, if there are changes that town council thinks are very, very important, that would have to be done on the floor. Or if there are changes that town council says are housekeeping, then you could just go with this and then clean it up in the fall, if needed. I mean, it might be moot because it might be
Yeah.
prohibited. I think the only other option would be to, have it go into the booklet, subject to changes council makes, but you don't have those in front of you. So I think that's, I don't even know that I would
Okay.
even be comfortable asking that. So I guess my advice would be to put in what you have here, which is exactly what came out of the planning board hearing.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, I mean, so
Okay,
if I get something, I'll call her in the morning and just see.
all right, so what you wanna do?
I don't think you have a choice. Make the motion, we approve the marijuana overlay district zoning as presented and amended by the planning board.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, item 3, we removed from the warrant, so we don't need to discuss that. Snow and ice deficit, we had already talked about that, so we're
Yep.
good there. Setting a date for the joint meeting, I guess we kind of discussed that, it's still, waiting for town council, right?
Yep.
Item G is the proposed, select board policy for travel and training reimbursement, and this is for boards, committees, and commissions. You have the page, Chris?
64?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so this is the same, policy we looked at last time, but I took out the, reference to employees. We had discussed that it'd be better to make sure it's consistent with the financial policy or, make them consistent. And then consider that being a personnel policy. So this would only apply to, board, committee, and commission members. Are you good with the language there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the professional development reimbursement policy as presented.
Second, Angus, did you have?
Just this, as written, I would read this to apply to, both appointed and elected boards and committees, and commissions. Is that the intent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, meeting minutes, we don't have the March 12th ready, but we do have March 27th and April 1st. So, did you have any further edits on this, Chris?
Since I'm off to Rebecca early, I'm not sure obviously they're not incorporated here.
You know when these were printed? Angus?
Yeah, before I reviewed the minutes this morning.
Oh, they were,
So the 27th ones,
both the 27th and the 1st.
right, but
When
the
did-
ones that you sent, you had edits on both of them?
One of them was fine, one had some minor edits with just corrections of names of the FinCom members who were writing rationale,
Oh, okay.
nothing substantive.
Are they minor enough that we can go through them now while we have it?
I'm just trying to find the minutes, the Dan's packet or the way Dan and supplement.
Oh, there's a hard copy. I think she left.
Yeah, I've got so much paper here,
Yeah,
it's not in the journal. Yeah.
Did you send them to Rebecca? That times?
Right,
I did it this morning, probably 10:30, 11 o'clock.
You could move. Approval pending.
Yeah, so that's probably not a bad idea.
I mean, I'm assuming she printed these out after she incorporated your edits.
The ones you have here tonight, yes. She would, yes,
Okay.
okay.
Is there, you can't remember any of them?
Just a
confirm
spot
that?
check it to see
Yeah.
if it,
You can find the back, yeah, hang on, let me file. You have them both there?
Yeah.
Fine.
So these are ones with the rationale, that was April first, right? Or you might be thinking about the 19th. Cause that, we were voting, I don't think we voted on any articles the other night.
I like Amanda's suggestion with any modification, I mean, it was just literally like, one of them had Dan Ennis writing the rationale, but James Farlake is just nothing that's gonna.
I'm gonna say with the proposed revisions, not say we propose.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 22nd and April 1st,
27.
I'm sorry, 27th. And April 1st, with any modification, which I had sent potentially to Rebecca earlier today, which would have been substantive.
All right, second. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We will get those posted first thing in the morning.
Okay,
Yeah, the 27th, I was fine with those.
okay, it was the first,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So that concludes action items. Item D, discussion items. The first is just a follow-up on the FY 27 budgeting process. I know there was, well, first of all, we had some technical issues. The meeting on the first, was mistakenly not, recorded. So there were some people online that attended, remotely, but there wasn't a recording after the fact. So that's why these minutes are very detailed from the first, just so that residents can follow along in that budget discussion. But more than that, I just wanted to summarize again the process that was followed. Angus presented the budget on February 12th, to both the FinCom and Select Board. And then there were meetings all throughout the rest of February and March where department heads came in and asked questions about their budget or explained why they had requested certain amounts. Board and committee chairs were also present for those. So as part of those meetings, as well as on the schedule, it was explicitly stated that we were doing something different this year, which was holding off on voting each department along the process and waiting until the very end and approving all the lines together. And the reason for that was just a more holistic look at the budget instead of doing it piecemeal. So on all those meetings, email notices went out, there were web announcements with the schedule, so it was very well publicized. And Angus did note at every one of those meetings that this was gonna be a different process and we were gonna wait until the end to approve the budget. Following that, the select board has to refer the budget to the FinCom. We don't approve the budget. It's really the FinCom's responsibility, but we do have a role under the Town Manager Act to refer the budget. So, Chris and I had decided to meet in ahead of the April 1st meeting and to work through the budget so that we could refer something that we'd actually had a chance to review. That was a working meeting, and so it was posted in accordance with open meeting law, but it was not a hybrid meeting and we did not record it. I mean, we typically do that when we have working meetings. So as part of that meeting, we had the objective in looking at the budget, to keep the overall increase from FY 26 below 2.5% of the non-school FY 26 budget. So that was all. And so Angus had made cuts in several departments to try to accommodate that. Following his presentation on the 12th, throughout February and March, there were other things that came up that we had not been aware of that were significant increases in lines that we didn't have a choice about paying. We also really wanted to have a higher COLA than 2%. We were hoping to be able to provide a 3% COLA to employees. So in order to make those things happen, we had to look at each budget and try to find opportunities to reduce expenses. We also looked at departments that had other revenue sources available, such as revolving funds, incentive grants, that kind of thing. So it took us about 2 hours. We went through line by line and just kind of, you know, talked each one through. And what came out of that was a budget that we proposed to FinCom, and that's what was discussed on April 1st. I'll also say that after that meeting, the select board sent emails to all department heads whose budgets were changed, explaining the change. And then I also followed up personally with them to make sure they understood it, prior to that meeting with FinCom. And so they were, the intent was to make them aware that if they had concerns about it, that the time to air them was at the FinCom meeting on April 1st. Chris, feel free to jump in anywhere if I'm missing something.
No, go ahead.
So then finally, we had the joint meeting. FinCom discussed all the changes that we had proposed. There were 4 department heads present, 2 offered input on their budgets. And FinCom did make some changes in response. They also increased the reserve fund amount from 50,000 to 80,000. And the reason for that was if these cuts that we had proposed had been too aggressive, they wanted to make sure that there was enough money available for departments to be able to take care of their expenses. So that's kind of where we are. As I said, that April 1st meeting was not recorded, which is very unfortunate, but we do have detailed minutes for anybody that wants to follow along the discussion that was conducted. So did I miss anything, Chris?
I didn't know that the April 1st wasn't recorded either. Yeah, the thing that I think is getting missed, and it's very frustrating. The policy direction was set early on to hold the 2.5%. It's been set that way most years and it seems to run over.
Mhm.
And when we say 2.5, that's non-school, because school is what's upsets the apple cart. We can't control that, and it does push the budget. I think we're like 4.3 or something when the school went in totally.
Mhm.
So the objective was to be, number one, respectful to the taxpayers, because we keep hearing how the tax rate is so high, and it will go up still because we can't control the schools. We worked real hard to hold the 2.5. And at the same time, understanding the constraints with the employee, I mean, with the health insurance costs going up 3%, still not keeping their heads above water. 2 or 2.5%. I don't think was fair to the employees, so we tried to balance these things. And as Wendy said, there's a number of departments that have reserve accounts from one fashion or another that get funded on a fairly regular basis if we're growing, and we thought those could be accommodated to offset some of the increases. And then, I don't wanna say every department, but most departments, we look to find some savings, and most of them were very respectful and thankful that we were trying to balance all these 3 things together. And some people were very upset, and that's very unfortunate, because nobody was singled out, and nobody's being disproportionately disserviced. And I think that the totality of what was put together is a very effective plan to keep the town in a fiscally strong and responsible position. I wish people could just view it as a whole, not their own little domain and how that gets impacted, so.
Yeah, just to summarize, I mean, significant changes in departments, you know, more than, say, $5,000. Police overtime and expenses was reduced. The fire expense line was reduced. The library, books and periodicals line was reduced. DPW, tree line was reduced by $35,000. The water, department, budget was reduced. There's a hydrant fee that they had proposed a 3% increase that we, eliminated pending the results of the rate study. And then in terms of other funding sources, the Board of Health actually, we proposed drawing from 2 sources. One is the revolving fund, $20,000 there. And then also there's a PFAS settlements fund that we proposed using $12,000 to supplement their budget. The library has a incentive grant from the state that we proposed using $12,000 from. And actually, as part of the conversation, we realized that the library director had tapped into that to pay some salary for increase in hours for the staff members. And so we agreed to fund that from the unbudgeted personnel cost instead. So the net use of that fund for from the library was $6,000. And finally, Concom has a Wetlands Protection Act fund that they're allowed to use to cover costs related to implementing that act, and so $8,000 was taken out of their fund. So I guess that shows that it was broad across many departments.
Two more comments relative to yours, because I've been getting a lot of both emails and comments in public, and what people have been saying is we cut the library budget 30%. That's not correct. And the cut was on books and periodicals. I think the state mandates 19% or 19.5% is what that should be funded of their total budget. Unless you're a community of our size and has the luxury of the excessive hours that we have being open. So there is a process where the library can get a relief on that and only has to fund books and periodicals at 16%. So they're choosing to look at that as that we cut their budget on that line item. I look at it slightly different. We might have been overfunding that line item by 3% for many, many years. But once we found out what the rules of the game were, that's where it should be funded, is at the 16. So they can, and they probably will continue to say, we cut that budget by 3%. We didn't cut their whole budget by 30%. The budget's up minimally, and they're also using some of that incentive grant money, which is a reserve fund. It's got $88,000 in it, and it's growing by $10, $11, and $12,000 each year that the state puts into it. So I don't think we've harmed that fund and diminished the opportunity for them to use it for other resources that they need. So that's enough on that. I just hope people will understand it and respect it. We're just trying to. We could have said, you know, we'll do no COLA raises this year and fund everybody for whatever they want. And that's sort of what made me think, well, maybe next year, that's how we ought to look at it. We got to say, what's the mandate at the beginning of the year? 2.5%, which probably will be. And then where are all the town budgets? And when you add that in, what do you have left for raises? It's going to be minimal. So if town employees and staff are happy with a 1 or 1.5 or 2% raise, that's another way to look at the process. So I don't like the way the process ended up this year, and now everybody's upset with certain cuts.
Well, not everybody.
No, and that's the next thing I want to say. I want to say thank you to the departments who, number of them came up to me and said, we really appreciate it. And I'll say one, the tree fund that we cut the removal of trees, 35,000. And Butch is pleased that he still has the budget he has to get the work done. I've heard from other departments and they're very grateful. So most people are very pleased with the process.
Well, so I do think, this was the first year we voted on the budget in aggregate. I think next year, hopefully it'll go more smoothly because people will understand, assuming we do it the same way. But I think as we lay the process out, we should have this select board referral meeting be part of this schedule. This came up at the last minute.
Be ready for it, yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of ran out of time on the budget meetings. Anything else you think we could do differently so people would not?
Well, I like to suggest in the referral meeting that'll be we were realizing as we got along that we had no opportunity to put input in the budget. And it was gonna go to the FinCom without any select board input, so maybe in the process next year in the schedule, 3 or 4 days before it goes to FinCom, any department head who wants to come, there will be a select board referral meeting. Yeah, I think that would alleviate the problems.
Well, all along, the budget meetings up front, the department has had the opportunity, so I don't think it's that we didn't give them the opportunity, it's just that this was something different.
Well, I don't think they had the opportunity to respond to our thoughts on it. That's a fair critique if they are bothered by that.
Okay, anything else on the budget process?
Yeah, just one, I think we will have a keeping item, but
Yeah.
you had mentioned in your summary earlier on the health, specifically the drop from 2 outside sources, the revolving under solid waste and the PFAS. I just want to make sure it's totally clear in the budget document posted here. It reflects an anticipated $20,000 transfer from solid waste revolving. I put back in the money for the PFAS, since that's not gonna be on this warrant. That's not gonna be till the fall warrant. So
Okay,
I did
so
put it
originally-
back into the operating budget of 13,000.
Okay,
Just because that's not, if you appropriate that in the fall town meeting, you could reduce that expense line at the fall town meeting. But I did put that back in because that article is not on this warrant.
As of the meeting on April first, right? Because originally we were talking about reopening the warrant.
Correct.
Yeah.
And because of, yeah, so in the number you had that night, I did what I budgeted -20, -13.
Mhm.
But in what you see here, it's just -20, or no, it's the two different lines, one's
Yeah.
the steel
Yeah.
landfill, but the steel landfill one does not deduct that 13K because it's not,
So then we would have to revise the budget as well in the fall town meeting?
if you wanted to, or it would be underspent,
Okay,
yeah.
well, yeah. because-
If the goal is to not raise it from taxation, then yes, you would also reduce the operating budget of the fall town meeting.
And will they have spent that money by then? When do they do the monitoring?
Yeah, it's over the course of the year. There's some they do every month, some every like 3 months. It's a whole prescribed schedule, so it's spent over the course of the year. It's not spent all in the first 3 months of the year.
Okay,
So that's why I shaded that one here as, even though it's unchanged, I wanted to draw attention to the, because
okay.
so,
All right, we'll have to take care of that in the fall.
yep.
All right. So the second discussion item is the zoning analysis. I mean, do we need to, this is on the cellular infrastructure. Do we still want to discuss that now? Jack, did you have an interest in discussing it? If we're gonna table this?
I don't think I'm prepared to discuss it.
No, I've got Sam working on it, but I'll tell him he doesn't need it. I asked him to get me something by the end of next week, but I'll tell him he has more time.
Well, maybe you can just keep it the end of next week and make sure it keeps going.
Okay.
Okay. Item D, parking easement and, oh no, do we want to talk about revenue sharing? No, Jack, right?
I don't think we have more time to
Okay,
go through a more logical process.
so we'll have that on a future agenda, great. So D, parking easement and the potential to impose parking restrictions, this is on the lot behind the Soldiers and Sailors Building. So there's a lot of deed information in the packet.
Yeah, I think the question I kind of arrived at, the only mechanism I'm aware of for the board to restrict parking is this traffic rules and orders, and that's adopted a certain section of MGL. And that applies to public ways. Since this is the parking easement behind the Soldiers and Sailors is within an easement, it's not within a public way. I think I wanted to tonight just see how you wanted to proceed, but if your intent is to go toward enacting some restrictions back there, my next step would be to refer this all to council and say, under the traffic rules and orders, do you have the authority to impose restrictions? And also, obviously, the land is owned by Drake's Landing Homeowners Association. You have an easement, or the town has an easement. So I wanted to kind of get your policy direction before putting it into legal review.
Yeah, I do think we need to do something, because the last 3 years, I think the contractor for the development has parked heavy equipment there. So, that's not great for the homeowners in Drake's Landing or the neighbors.
It's not allowable for these either.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I don't know how you enforce that. Maybe we ask council how we do that. It says parking to serve the existing building is shown. You know, it's pretty clear. I don't think it comes under traffic rules and orders, to be honest.
so which part of the deed are you reading from, Chris? There's several pages in here and I couldn't.
Yes, here, this paragraph here, shall be used for parking and shall be maintained exclusively. We'll keep the
Pedestrian access as well.
to serve the existing building as shown on the plan.
Okay,
Because that was the intent at the time. I'm not even quite sure. I wasn't engaged with the select board at that time. I know they had to give the developer a certain amount of frontage so that they could actually get their permit to do it. And I think as a townie, I wasn't involved in government at the time, I took a break off for a couple of years. We should have owned the land. I don't know why the town doesn't own it, why the subdivision does. That just makes no sense to me.
Mhm.
Because the intent was clearly to have parking so that the town could use this building and have the benefit of it at some time. So to think that this is supplemental parking for either a landscaper or residents having a party doesn't make logical sense. So
So Chris, this preceded my time. This easement was one of the first things I was involved with. But the approval of the subdivision and that whatever deal was worked out between the select board and the developer at the time preceded me. But I believe that the deal was not that the developer needed frontage. I believe it was that Mass DOT was not gonna issue a curb cut permit for a new road that was so close to the existing curb cut, because it violates, it's gotta be a certain distance between curb cuts on a state highway. So I believe what the developer needed the town to agree, and the select board did at that time agree, was to close these curb cuts. Those had to be closed because they were too close to the new roadway. So the deal that was made, as I understand it, was that the town would now have access to this through the back, because they were gonna have to close off the front curb cut. So it wasn't, I don't believe there was land shifted.
Okay,
I
I
think
thought there
that's,
was, but
yeah.
regardless of that, all I'm saying is if this thing ever came to this board, I would hope you would sit there and say, no, we need ownership of that land. We don't need to have a
Mhm.
right to use it. I mean,
Yeah.
even though you clearly have the right to use it, and storing landscape equipment is not provided for in this easement, so I think that the town should maybe work with the Drake's Landing people to see if we can just put up signage to enforce this. I mean, otherwise, what it does is devalues that building to zero for
Yeah.
the town.
Well, last year, Angus and I did pursue it with the HOA, and they did get the contractor to move the equipment. So I'm
It
not
shouldn't
sure.
have to be an on-demand.
No, I know, I'm
Shouldn't
just
be there,
saying,
period.
so it may be that the HOA does not have much control either, that was my point. So does that give you the direction?
I think it does, yeah, I think that's exactly the question, is how do we enforce the easement, and, if either of you have, identifying information on what was parked there, we can, that may be part of an enforcement. It's just that-
Bobcat, a couple of trailers.
Right, but like a license plate number or something, because if we can track down, then we could like send a letter once we have clear direction from council.
Let's try a further comment too. Any chance that the homeowners association would transfer ownership of the parcel to the town?
It's a conversation you could have. I will tell you that, and again, this all preceded me. There were other critiques I could offer, but I won't because I wasn't here, so it's immaterial, but, I had the distinct impression during my first year or two or three, just based on casual offhand comments, either from residents of Drake's Landing or from, Chip Hall himself, the developer. I forget exactly what, but I always had the sense that when people moved in and purchased homes in Drake's Landing, they were given the impression that this was overflow parking for them. I feel that they had a sense of having, because I remember, and I forget specifics and it was a long time ago, but I remember explaining to people who lived there that no, in fact, I said, you have a right to park here. So does anybody else, because it's public parking. It is not Drake's Landing, it's public parking. Now, but you're correct that it's public parking to serve
Serve the
that
building.
right?
So that's why I say, no, it's not public
Yeah,
parking. It's
yeah.
not-
How did that belief get started? Because that was always my understanding, and in fact, that limited the use of this building because there was no dedicated parking,
Right.
so.
And isn't the septic for this building will have to go into that lot, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't the developer escrow donate whatever to the town, 10 grand for that?
I don't think so.
I've never noticed that. They conveyed an easement,
No, I
with
think
the
they
potential
contributed 10
to,
grand for something, 'cause they were gonna help with the septic, but it wasn't gonna be built or something. I think somewhere,
there was 10 grand at the Salvage Court extension related to the Weststone Greenway. That is certain, but
Okay,
I
I
don't
think this-
remember any
okay.
transaction for this one, but. It was approved before I got here. I did have a role in this easement because this was sent to me. When I was pretty new here, my first month or so or two on the job, and. By the developer's attorney, and she asked me to get it executed. By the board, and I was reading through it. And I said, that there was language in here where it was needing to be attested that it was accepted by town meeting. And I said to Mike McCarron, did town meeting ever vote to accept this easement? And he said, no, they don't need to. And I said, no, it says right here, they do need to. So I had to go to the board in September of 2018 and ask them to reopen the warrant to add an article to the fall town meeting for October 2018 for town meeting to accept the easement, which they did. But that, I remember it crystal clear because the developer and his attorney were saying, we need to get the curb cut permit, we need to, and I'm like, turns out town meeting needed to accept this, they never did, and we got it done, but it was just, you know, it was just one of the many crises, my first couple, it was just everywhere you turn, everything was wrong.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of issues with this one. But,
So in addition to asking legal about what we can do for enforcement of non-parking, I would think it would be a good idea to see if the Drake's Landing people would wanna transfer the ownership of it to the town.
yeah, I think it would probably be an uphill climb because I do think that they perceive that this is overflow parking.
Well, I think once it gets pointed out to them, it's not, and
Yeah.
we can enforce that too.
Mhm.
Which I don't think is a good way to have to go, but I think if there's any potential hope for the building, I'm not sure there is, that parking is integral to it.
Mhm.
Okay. Item E is the process and timeline for appointment of board of fire engineers. So this has to happen every year on or before April 30th. I would propose that we invite applications now and vote on it at our April 30th meeting. I also would propose that we consider reducing the size of the board to 3. It's currently at 5. Part of the initial conversations about the asset study for the fire department was about also streamlining operations, and I think this could be a good first step for that.
Okay.
We don't have to decide that tonight, but I just want to throw it out there. So Angus, what's the process if we have to invite people to apply?
In the past, we've done a news announcement as well as obviously letting all the incumbents know that they need to resubmit a statement of interest.
Mhm.
At times, and we've typically handled this at the specific direction of the board. There have been years that they've wanted to do like a townwide news announcement. There's been other years that it's been more considering the incumbents. So it's, you know, at a minimum, we would let the 5 current members know that it would be on for 4/30, for April 30 as to the board's appointments for the next term. Whether you also want us to cast a larger net in terms of a townwide post, we will do that if you'd like. We've done it in the past, but not every year, it's been at the board's direction.
Mhm. What do you think, Chris?
I think you wanna have somebody who's currently involved with it, so I think the 5, the question is, what kind of criteria we could use to evaluate who gets appointed?
Oh, what we always do. I mean, they usually send a letter and, you know,
Okay,
that's what we did last year.
yeah, you're reducing it from 5 to 3.
Yeah.
We just don't want to value that on, okay?
All right. So then if we are gonna reduce it, that would be an action item as well as appointing people at
Yeah.
that meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be appropriate way to. All right, final discussion item is changes in state regulations regarding permitting of clean energy facilities.
Just another state mandate coming
Yeah.
down the pike. It just,
Love it.
you just can't make this stuff up.
No, they seem to
have
make it
anything
up.
else to do?
Yeah, you can't, they can.
I love it too, and it's all this paperwork and it talks about streamlined and expedited permitting. I don't think so. I even put a smiley face, they're like, this is crazy.
It is kind of. So I just wanted to, Sam had actually sent me this memo right around Thanksgiving and I had received it and the planner had received it. I had overlooked getting it to you guys at that point.
Mhm.
Just because it was a busy time and I found it in my inbox. I'm like, I hadn't even seen it, to be very honest. So I had seen some more recent things in my inbox and then I looked back and I said, oh geez, Sam wrote a great memo on this. So basically I wanted this in tonight, just so you know it's on the radar. It's something that you can expect to hear more about. And so when it does come up in the future, it's, you know, there's some sense of like, this is imposed upon us and
Okay, Sam's on top of it.
Sam's on top of it.
Yeah.
So
good.
basically, it's just gonna consolidate the permitting of all the planning board, the Concom, under one roof,
Mhm.
the clean energy.
Just
Maybe-
that simple.
Well, maybe in the long run, it is simple. I mean, imagine having to chase all these different committees at different times.
Yeah.
Again, anytime you do anything, the amount of permitting has got to be insane.
Yeah.
Good times.
All right, any questions on the correspondence, Chris? Then mosquito control and wetlands management district, that's in our budget, right, or in the health department's budget?
It's in the chair sheet, so it's,
Okay.
yeah,
it's
it's not in the operating budget.
All right, we're good with that, Chris?
Excuse me?
Did you have any questions on the correspondence? Or any comments? I see you have highlighting and
Looking at other
colored
things.
pens.
Just getting ahead. Well, I'm good, of course.
All right, chapter 90 funding, or should I go through each one?
So I don't know that you need to, there's no action.
Do I need to?
No.
All right,
Only thing I do is EC, and why did I pick this one? Letter from Merrimack Valley Planning. About assistance. And at the planning board meeting, they were trying to sort out what they need for assistance. I hope they realize Merrimack Valley Planning can be a really good asset for them on a lot of the help. they
well,
can
I
need.
brought that up to Ann, the chair, and she said they were kind of lukewarm. When planning board members had, or when Brian Murphy had reached out to them, you mean about for an interim planner?
No, but they can accommodate a lot of the tasks that need to be done. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't expect them to have an interim plan, but I think they could fill in some of the blanks
Yeah,
in between. I think that'd be good.
so when they covered, I guess the plan was for them to cover when Bert left, the conservation agent.
Mhm.
Did that work out? It seemed like the number of hours that we actually got was not as much as we needed,
So
or,
that was a few years ago, and at that time, they had someone on staff with prior experience as an agent.
yeah,
So I think, I do think she was helpful. I don't remember in terms of number of hours, but she doesn't work there anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
okay,
Can I ask a question, another one on the mosquito thing?
Yeah.
They give the whole matrix of the budget and everything. And it just seemed like I don't understand it, obviously the total assessment. West Newbury, we're the same as Amesbury pretty much.
in terms of the dollar amount,
Yeah.
it's because we have so many wetlands.
That's how it's based on, is we do acreage or what, I don't know what the,
I don't know for sure, that was my assumption when I read it, look at all the drainage ditches we have.
yeah, well, Merrimack's 36,000 with 57,000, they got. And it's very strange when you look at the numbers.
Hmm.
Well, more than Newburyport, they probably have more wetlands, maybe not percentage wise, but. They have a lot of wetlands over there.
Well, that is interesting, so there's gotta be something other than formula besides.
I don't know what direction the funds, it just seems like we're paying a very. High proportion compared to a lot of other places.
I can ask Paul for a briefing on that.
That'd be
He's-
great.
He's by far the most knowledgeable in the mosquito control.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any future agenda items? Yes.
No, at this point.
All right,
I just had one, quick one, a couple of, 3 or 4, 5 meetings ago, the board had talked about, had supported the suggestion from the Energy and Sustainability Committee to put up a couple of new signs
mhm,
at, Pipestave to make people aware of the EV charging stations over at Page, so, Chip Wallace had sent me, their suggestions on the language for the signage, toward the end of March, and I told him, we're in the thick of budget, so not right now, but as soon as, that's, timely, then I'll bring it back to the board for you guys to review, so whether that's on for April 30th or May, would that be, the chair's call, but that's, I just didn't want to lose track of that.
okay, great. And there were a couple items that we deferred from this meeting.
Yeah, well,
That would be on the.
yeah, we'll keep those on the list, and
Okay, great. All right, I move to recess to executive session for MGL chapter 38, section 21A 2, 3, and 7.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
okay, the board has recessed to executive session and will return to open session for the sole purpose of adjournment. Thank you very much.